Your boy is back, man. The Island Dreams. I feel like there's a palm tree with that music going on, just chilling out, relaxing. Long Island Changemakers. I have this opportunity, I have this platform where I get to hang out with really cool people doing important work. You know, sometimes they're nonprofit leaders, sometimes they're for-profit leaders, but what I love is when they're for-profit folks who are very involved in the nonprofit sector. You know, my guest today is part of the Nonprofit Resource Hub, which is an organization we founded. If you want to check it out, go to nonprofitresourcehub.org. It is just what it sounds like. It's like when you say you're the nonprofit sector connector, all the words are there to explain it. Well, when you're a nonprofit resource hub, that's exactly what we do over there. Alex Lipsky is a member, an associate member of the Nonprofit Resource Hub with Lipsky, third generation companies. Love those stories. Third generation Lipsky Construction. What's up, man? What's going on? Welcome to Long Island Changemakers.
Thanks, Tommy. It's fantastic to be here, and I love how you talk about the organization, the Nonprofit Resource Hub. I'm very honored to be a part of such a great organization.
Yeah, so we're happy to have you, man. And I'll tell you, it's funny because what we're trying to do there is really bring best of breed business professionals, I like to say solution providers, to the nonprofit sector. And who actually brought you to the Resource Hub?
You know, I reached out to Allison, but I want to go back to what you said, because the firepower of this organization is really its members. Not the nonprofit members are incredible, but the associate members, everybody leading that, from the accounting side, the CPA side, to the lawyers, to even Vanguard Benefits and Lipsky Construction and the architect, everybody in there is at the top of their game. Some of the best people I've ever met on Long Island just so happen to also be part of this great organization. So really top tier. Really
well, thank you for saying that. And that was always important to us when we put this group together. You know, Ken Serini, I'll say this.
Ken's great.
I feel like I feel like family with Ken and his team, and certainly Kellyanne. I love Kellyanne, and his wife Bonnie and I know each other for a long time, and just always have such great connection with them. But when we talk about the Resource Hub, we talk about it as these are our partners. Like, we're looking out for each other. And Ken takes that very seriously, and I do as well, but he's always saying it because he says, I think of these people as our partners. And why that's important is just what you're saying. We look for top tier professionals. We look for the folks who are, yes, serving the sector, yes, growing their businesses, but I say the sector, I mean the nonprofit sector, but most importantly is that they are top notch in the work they do. So we definitely have some vetting. It's not, you know, there's an application phase and things like that, so there's a lot that goes into it. But you actually met Allison. That was Allison LaFrelita, our ED. Is that how that happened?
Yeah, exactly. And I believe I reached out to her and I said, what is this organization? It looks pretty unique and incredible, especially that it's kind of born and bred on Long Island, but it's regional. It's not geographically locked. I mean, we were on a webinar yesterday that with some of the people were in California, I believe it was. So it really is coast to coast. Yeah. But with that being said, you know, reaching out to Allison, and she goes, well, are you working with any nonprofits currently? And describing to her, so we just by happenstance have been very fortunate to work with some great nonprofits in the past. And because of that, we've created almost like a nonprofit development roadmap.
That's, I heard you say that a couple meetings ago, and it was just, you know, and there's another words you used when we recently on a separate meeting, you know, owner's rep and construction management and those kind of terms. And I want to get into all that. But that roadmap, we're the Nonprofit Resource Hub, right? So it's all about bringing resources to our friends in the sector. Glenn Landau, shout out, talk about third generation. I think they're fourth generation. Landau and Landau and Landau and Landau. I love you. I love
and he's
Glenn
got
Landau.
The sister and it's a family organization, but they are one of the best and most impressive architecture firms that New York State has to offer, and it just so happens that now he's one of my good friends.
That's so cool. But that's what I'm saying. That's what happens there. So I love that. Shout out to the Hub. That's how you and I met. That's how we became friends. I want to hear the story, though, about, because when we were just sitting chatting before we started rolling here, you know, we were talking about your dad and, you know, how I think the way you said it was he made us sit in each seat. And you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, how your brother and you came up in the business and really learned the business. So, but it goes back before your dad.
Yeah.
So let's go back. Tell me about this story.
So my father is my greatest mentor. Barry Lipsky is my absolute greatest mentor.
Shout out to Barry.
But this all kind of started before that. My grandfather came back from World War II, moved into a Levitt house, and decided that he was going to tinker around and renovate his Levitt house. His neighbor asked him, can you renovate my house? And created the Levittown Carpentry Company. And from there, he won awards in Levittown.
Do you remember what year when that?
Oh, I think we have ties. I found a business card from the 1955.
Wow.
And I actually, so when I found my grandfather's business card, Herbert Lipsky, at the time I think it said Master Cabinet Maker. It's now framed in my office.
That's awesome.
I could not believe I found such a treasure.
That is so cool.
In a business card like
the attic or something like that.
Oh, we were going through old photos, this, that, and I found it was pristine too. Like not a wrinkled edge.
That is cool, man.
So I have that legacy on my wall, and I'm very proud to have that.
Yeah.
So my grandfather started this in '55 as we always say the first project was one window, the second project was two windows. And when my father and my uncle came out of college in '77, '78, they took it, and I don't think there was any turning back from there.
Yeah.
So from there, they became one of the largest general contractors in New York State for public works projects. We were national for many years.
Okay.
We were running around providing federal work to the sound attenuation program around airports and making sure that they were sound tight. After, I would say, 2001, we came back and localized back to Long Island so he can be with us and watch us grow up and spend more time with
just you and your brother, or are there other siblings?
Oh, there's four of us. Me, older brother's in the business with me. Younger brother's, he's the one that escaped.
Yeah.
And then my younger sister's she's such a spitfire, my younger sister. She's great. She's out in Riverhead, so she's not far.
Is she coming into the business? Or that's
No, she's in the mental health space, actually. She's incredible. Really great person.
I think you might have told me that. I think I remember. Like, that's very, how important that is to me, that
she
space.
does counseling. Yeah. She's a really great individual.
That's awesome.
My brother and I are both co-president, CEO of Lipsky Construction, third generation.
He's older.
He's just older than me by a year.
Okay.
But we are pretty mutual. I definitely could not do this without him, and I like to say that he can't do it without me either. Now, his background's even different.
Tell me.
So I come from the company. I've been with Lipsky Construction for over 16 years.
But that's as an adult, right? But what about as a kid? I mean, were you picking up nails? Were you sweeping up job sites and stuff like that?
There's some great photos of me, 4 years old, 5 years old, sitting in the back of an excavator, building our own office in Bayport.
Really?
We were always, following my father on job sites, trying to find out what he was doing. But it wasn't until maybe high school that he said, "Here's a shovel. Put the debris in the dumpster."
Okay.
That's where it all started.
Sure.
So I guess we have worked every seat, and we've also worked every shovel of trying to get the field experience and the office experience.
I think it's so important just because, you saw it your whole life, right? You were aware of it your whole life. And I want to go back for a second because I want to hear your story and your brother Joel's story, but I want to hear public works.
Yeah.
Let's break that down for people. Not everybody understands what that means.
So we've built over 250 schools on Long Island, finished over 250 school contracts, libraries, MacArthur Airport, East Hampton Airport. I built the terminal, the East Hampton Airport. We've built Nassau County Courthouse, changed out every single window in the courthouse.
Really?
So municipal projects, state projects, federal projects are there. You need to have a very high bonding capacity.
Got it.
You have to have, you're working at prevailing wages, which are state wages.
Sure.
Not every contractor has done this. Not every contractor is qualified to do this. It's something that my father has been doing very successfully since the 80s and 90s and is the backbone of our processes and systems of how we operate our company. What my brother and I did is when it was really during COVID where we had to sit down and we had that time to think about what we want to be known for. We took all that knowledge, the knowledge of the public works and how to have these processes and the systems in place. We decided to change it from, because all the public bid is low bid. No matter how good you are.
When you say public, you mean somebody doing work at their home, or you mean
public works are institutional projects.
Oh, I'm sorry. When you said the public, I thought you were excluding that from public works. So when you say public works, that's low bid, whatever the best price is.
It doesn't matter if you're the best contractor out there. There's qualifications,
right? But
you have to give the lowest
But once you've made it to that level, then the lowest number.
It just comes out to the lowest number.
So you're sitting there during COVID, during what Governor Cuomo called the pause, when we're all pausing. What were you thinking about when you're pausing?
We kind of looked around the room and all the awards that we've won, and we picked out our favorite projects. And we had some really cool schools that we built, libraries, this, that. But our favorite projects, we realized, were in the private sector. They were projects that we actually provided value for instead of being the value contractor. So we took everything that we learned from the public works sector and brought it into our private clients. And kind of took it from where we barely had a website we started to build out our marketing material. So started marketing ourselves differently as the professional approach to construction management and the level that is, again, I talked about this with you earlier, the only way I was taught to build on Long Island is this way. It's the right way. Doing it any less than that, I don't understand that, because this is how I was taught to make projects successful, my clients successful.
But when you say that, does it also mean the way others are doing things is less safe as well? Is that part of what you're saying, or is it just not? I mean, up the code. I
wasn't talking safety, but you're not wrong. I mean, we have a safety program. I have a 40-page document in my office that is our Lipsky construction safety program. Yeah. I myself, I probably have a few hundred hours of safety training. I'm a New York City licensed superintendent. Okay. I have a 62-hour SST card in New York City that requires constant updates of my 40-hour
continuing ed and everything.
Yeah, OSHA training course. So we make sure that every single one of my employees is OSHA trained.
How big of a company is this?
I have 15 full-time project management. We we used to have a larger labor force of another 20, 30.
Okay.
These days we keep it slim just because it depends on the type of projects that we're on.
Right.
But we have 15, 20 in-house right now, and we're growing. We're one of the few companies out there that is expanding today, when I'm hearing that there's a slowdown in the industry, but very fortunate to have a few jobs.
I think that's great. And if you were, your grandfather was alive when you were born, or you didn't know your grandfather?
I knew my grandfather for many years.
You did?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming he's passed now? Or?
He has,
okay.
Yes.
What was it like seeing him and your dad interact, if you can remember that, as a young person coming up? And how long was he ever in the business while you and your brother were in the business?
So my brother worked for Turner Construction.
Oh, did he? Okay.
He worked for the biggest construction company in the world. But when I was there, my grandfather was critical to the success of our projects because he was a master carpenter. So he would be in the office most days. He was a master cabinet maker, and where he was, his biggest value was he was a master window maker. And anybody could do a box window. There's Martin Supply, Anderson windows. He was critical for arched windows, custom windows. We were talking about a great nonprofit that we did some work for in the green room called the Green Tree Foundation, which is right up the road here. Okay. And we did the custom windows in the pool room of this historic mansion that you can't buy those off the shelf. And that's
these are made with his hands?
By my grandfather. I mean,
was he able to transfer that knowledge to? Again, it's with his own hands, but was he able to get that to other people and teach people how to do that?
I would say my father spent the most time with him in that sense. Yeah. I got a little bit of a taste. I did 1 or 2 projects with him, but I will say I was a little green in my understanding.
Right, it was early.
I saw him work. I saw his genius, but I didn't understand what today I would have been shocked. I would have been in awe, and I'm very fortunate to have the career that I had to understand that. Sure. But I was working as his apprentice, just getting materials,
carrying stuff.
Yeah, that's my job.
Yeah. Ham and Swiss.
That's it.
That sort of thing. Yeah. It's just those. It's not so common that companies make it into these generations, and continue to go on. Did you, like, your dad had eyes on you guys to come into this, or was it more like, we'll see how it goes kind of deal?
Yeah, he never required us to do this. He sent us away to school, pick your own path, choose your own path. I actually came into this, so my brother went to school for construction management. Yeah. My brother's extremely good. I would have to say, my brother Joel is probably one of the best builders that New York State and the East Coast has to offer. He's an incredible resource for New York State. I developed my own path. While I was in school, I was working for the man.
What does that mean, working for the man?
I was working for my father and my uncle. I was doing back office requirements. I was doing insurance checks. I was doing things that were more clerical, which would open me up to grad school in the afternoons and night to make sure that I was continuing my education. So I was actually in grad school, not for construction, while working for construction, and I fell in love with it. It was actually one of the turning points was finding that business card. So finding my grandfather's business card, and I saw his last name on that. I saw the last name on the company, we are Lipsky Construction. I kind of said I could make a go at this and see how far I could go.
Wow. And but if I'm not mistaken, before that, it was special education.
Special education.
Why? Why was that something that was important?
So my undergrad was psychology.
Okay.
There was portions of it that I grabbed onto. I loved psychology. I loved the understanding of the mind, but I realized later on it was kind of like pharmaceutical psychology, where you diagnose and then you give them pills to make them better. And I know there's a lot more to it.
Sure.
I felt I really grabbed onto developmental psychology and the concept of early intervention.
Yeah.
And not give them Ritalin, but give them early intervention
Sure.
as course corrections. So I wanted to get into elementary education with, especially because I had a lot of energy,
Yeah.
which I still do today. I wanted to focus on special education and bring that energy to critical children.
Yeah, I love that. We love that space for sure. This was the decision. This was the path. You found that business card. That being said, knowing somewhat about what I know about you through our brief conversations, your give back and your energy is focused on the nonprofit sector, specifically for organizations connected to children. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's not something that I was focused on, getting involved in nonprofits. It just, there was a point where I became owner of the company. The wife and I, we were secure in the house. We were very, we were deciding what kind of people we wanted to be. And my wife said, like, what if we started to give back a little bit? We got to that decision point. So somebody asked me, actually serendipitously, a few weeks later, Alex, do you know about LLS and Leukemia and Lymphoma Society? I said, not too much. So I went to a meeting, and all of a sudden I was jumped into it head first. And they said, would you like to be one of our visionaries? Would you like to be on the Man of the Year campaign? Sure. Is what they called it. And I ran a very successful 10-week fundraising campaign where I was an awardee that night, and we raised $92,000 for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. My wife and I say my wife and I because she was my number two. She did way more work than I did. She's a critical part of that, but they did give me the award. So.
That's congrats on that. I mean, Ray Schwetz is a very good friend of mine.
Ray is incredible.
Yeah, he's been here on the show a couple months ago, and he's a great friend. And
he always does the light the night.
Yeah,
and
does so much work for that organization. And I don't know if you'll know the name of this little girl, but he, over the summer leading up to Light the Night, there was this girl, she gave this speech. It was one of these cocktail hour kind of things where it was telling people about Light the Night and stuff like that. And Penny. Her name is Penny. Her dad, I believe, is the chair of Light the Night this year. And just a special little girl and special organization, so important, so important.
And you know what I did not know going into this is that everybody has a story. Yeah. Everybody, and they actually reminded me that I have a story of a friend that passed at 30 years old from having an issue and from cancer. Yeah. Dear friend of mine, and unfortunately it's way too common. It's stuff that we don't think about, especially I'm trying to run 1,000,000 miles an hour, trying to build Long Island, trying to build skyscraper, whatever it is. Right. Meanwhile, there's a lot of personal things going on in the background in every single geographic location on Long Island, in every single family, whether it's in your house or it's next door, it's happening. And we always have to keep that in mind as we explore our paths.
Everyone you know is fighting a battle you know nothing about.
I love that.
Kind always.
I love
Robin
that.
Williams. Robin Williams.
Oh, I love him.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Unreal. And it's so, I talk a lot about mental health and serious mental illness, and we have to be mindful of what other people are going through. We have to find that compassion and love. So thank you for underscoring that and underlining that. What does it look like, when you talk in terms of growing Long Island? I mean, I just heard something the other day. I listen to a lot of things, a lot of podcasts. I find myself in YouTube or on YouTube. Well, I'm on YouTube. Haha, hey everybody, like and subscribe. But but I find myself like in that YouTube like spiral at times. But what I've heard recently is like the infrastructure in this country is in dire straits, is in bad shape. Yeah. Is that true on Long Island as well, that there needs to be a lot of work that needs to be done, to your point, public works and things like that?
Oh yeah, so I'm very fortunate that I'm a sitting board of director for the HIA of Long Island, as well as the Long Island Builders Institute, also called Libby. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we're constantly talking about is the need for housing on Long Island, and that's going to be the economic driver.
Now, different housing, right? Now, I was at an HIA event about a year ago, and I sat in on a real estate thing, and they were talking.
We were probably in the same room.
I'm sure we were, because we didn't know each other yet. The thing about it that stood out was the requirements or the choice of housing that people want is different. So maybe, you have a couple kids, I have some kids, we want a single family home, right? That sort of thing. That is not as desirable, and I know you know where I'm going, but like I'll think about, like, I don't know the whole Patchogue story very well, but that whole downtown, the things that they do, they build these communities. It's my understanding that people want apartment type living versus, dude, I want a backyard so my dog Cheeto can run around, my kids can run around, the gate is closed, everybody's safe, that sort of thing. Nobody's running out into the street. Not what everybody wants, right?
Yeah, and they're focusing on certain demographics. So they're looking at young people coming out of college. Now, one of the issues that we have is we are the biggest exporter of talent. Yeah. Educated individuals, educated youth are leaving Long Island in droves because we do not have that infrastructure here. We do not have the sewer systems which are critical to these multifamily homes, to these apartments. Now, I will say that we have some really great developers. Mm-hmm. If you look at Tritech's Patchogue development, if you look at Tritech's Station Yard development, they're probably, in Ronkonkoma, they're probably the best out there in terms of understanding what the Long Island demographic is going to want, but they're also doing research throughout the nation and bringing it back to Long Island to make this the best product.
What is that people want? Am I right? It's more of a building, an apartment building.
They want a community. They want a community that's there.
But not necessarily like a development with you're on 60 by 100, or if you're out in Suffolk County, you're on a half an acre. It's more like.
It's also what they can afford. So a half an acre on Long Island could be $700,000, $800,000, and coming out of college, nobody has that. The apartment life does make it a little bit more feasible, mm-hmm. and it gives you a gym access, and it gives you a dog walking area. It gives you lifestyle, and they have, I'm going to talk about Station Yards in Ronkonkoma because I built 2-3 things there.
Oh, you did? Okay.
But I will also say that they have events going on. They had a St. Patrick's Day parade at their facility. Right. They have this going on. So they're really making
young people
community.
Dig that.
100%.
Right. I would love that.
And that also brings, Dad, why don't you move in here? We could be closer. You could be closer to the grandkids. So is there a need for the acreage of land? Yes and no. Some people value it. Some people want to be in it. Before we moved into a house, we looked at the apartments. We said, this is going to be really cool one day.
Yeah.
So
right. This will be, like you said, that's the thing too. Like, people who are on the other side of that, the kids have grown and everything like that, maybe they don't need that or don't want it. Like, I've seen some of these communities where, and you know this better than me, but it's like a community, and then there's like a restaurant in the community, or like a mall or a strip mall.
So those are called mixed use. They're going to have retail on the first floor, and then residential on floors 2 through whatever.
Yeah,
that's a mixed use building. And unfortunately, because of the zoning on Long Island, there's some areas that allow it, there's some areas that do not allow it. It's more prevalent, and from a developer standpoint, while you think that, okay, I have this great restaurant, that restaurant makes you no money. It's there as an anchor to bring the residents to the location systematically to make sure that your apartment building will be fully leased.
Okay.
But in that sense, we need to build more. We need to build a lot more on Long Island. We have a dire need for more housing.
And we have plenty of space to do it, right?
Oh,
it's not about that.
Yeah,
right?
the 70s and the 80s were the commercial infrastructure boom. We built so much commercial out there, and then all of a sudden we turn around and there's nobody able to fill that space because we don't have enough housing. So now we're back into the housing issue. We have to build as much housing as possible currently. And the other secondary issue to that is there's a lot out there, and there's a lot of people that are trying to build, and the towns make it very difficult.
See, that's what I'm glad you went there. So that's another thing, that same panel discussion at the HIA event that I learned a little bit about what I just shared. And then it was like, I'm not going to make this a political thing because I'm not interested in doing that. What I will say, though, is from the perspective of we need to reduce friction, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's like permitting doesn't have to take so long, right? If there was a give and take with the governing bodies and municipalities, whoever it is, and they wanted to play ball and work together, maybe that's the wrong terminology because it sounds like it's got a negative connotation, but if everybody wanted to just work strategically together, things could get done. It's not a lack of ability to move things along, right? It's just
Yeah. The problem is that Long Island, New York is very litigious, very contractual, and we are also very stuck in our ways. So a lot of the communities out, especially as you get Nassau into Suffolk, well, Suffolk was all single-family residences. I don't want this high-rise.
Right.
I don't want this multi-family. Why do they have to build it in my backyard? Not in my backyard.
NIMBY.
100%.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, the consequence of that is, yes, less is being built here, but the builders on Long Island, I know there's a builder that's down the road from this location. I know the guys from I know every single major builder on Long Island is not just building on Long Island. They're building in Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Georgia, Texas.
They have a much easier time.
So much easier. Exactly, Tommy. It's so much easier. You're talking about processes that could take 2-3 years to get approval on Long Island, and they could take 3-4 weeks. They could take months.
Come on, man.
Yeah, it's incredible. You can get things done so much faster. It's cheaper to build. You're still going to hit rents.
So again, you might be a hometown guy, not just you, but others, and they want to do it. But you're killing me, man. If I can't do it, right?
I will say a lot of the legislators today are stuck in what the previous generations have put into place. So they're fighting the legislation that's already written.
Right.
So it's not that we could scream at a few of the, this town sucks for develop. They're just working on the previous legislation.
Right. So, but that sounds to me that there's an opportunity to unwind this stuff. If the legislation is
wrong, you think it would be that easy, and I don't know why it isn't. I'll let them deal with that. But you're right. Hopefully, there is change on the horizon on that.
Yeah. What about some other stuff you're involved with, nonprofit-wise? I mean, you personally. I mean, first of all, good on you and your wife. I don't think I was that thoughtful at the ages you're talking about to say what can I do in the world and what kind of lives do we want to live? But talk to me about that.
Yeah, so that started at a young age. My father got us into the scouting when I was a kid, and I don't know how many hours of volunteer work I've done at this point.
Yeah.
It's endless. I am an Eagle Scout.
Nice.
I was always giving back. I remember when September 11th happened. It wasn't go to the school for and donate a Barbie and walk away or whatever it was. I was there for 3 weeks. I was trying to help as much as I could, just give back. I would bring our scout troop there. I was a senior patrol leader to bring everybody with me to try to make that, whatever we could do to give back. So I let go of scouting for a little bit. I did work for a great organization with scouting in Florida for 2 years. And then it was just something else. I forgot about it. And then I reconnected with it in my adult life, started to talk to a few people. And now I'm a sitting board of director for the Nassau County Theodore Roosevelt Council, Boy Scouts of America.
Yeah, I know that council.
Very proud. Thank you. I'm very proud to be there, and I just so happen to be getting an award this year from the Suffolk County. The National Eagle Scout Association is presenting.
Do you know? You know my friend Lauren Vlachos?
I'm not sure.
I'm going to get you connected.
Yeah.
She's very involved with scouting.
That's great.
Yeah, she's the executive director of Alzheimer's Disease Research Center.
Oh,
we'll make that happen all day. It happens to me all day. I got to talk to you about something. We're running out of time, but really quick before we go, I want to say this. I ran into somebody recently through a Rotary Club that I'm a member of, and she has sparked something about me maybe going. I was never a Boy Scout, but she helps adults become Eagle Scouts and things like that. I want to talk to you. We'll have coffee. We'll talk about it. That's because incredible. Now you've just brought this up to me again, and I'm wondering, might be a cool project to get involved with, and maybe my sons become Scouts. We did the Pinewood Derby. That's kind of where it stopped when one of my boys was a Cub Scout. Alex, this has been great. The thing about this show is it's bite-sized. We can get into some stuff, but we got to get you back. We got to do more.
I don't think we're done talking. So
we're way far from it. I mean, we got to turn the cameras off, but you and I will still stay here for another hour or so. But that's it. But thanks for being here. Alex Lipsky, Lipsky Construction. What's the website so they can check it out?
LipskyConstruction.com. You could always connect with me on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way to find me.
Love it. LinkedIn, definitely one of my favorite places to hang out, for sure. So I bring this show to a close, but every week we're back. Long Island Changemakers, as I say, people on the front lines doing important work, making our island even better than it is. Not longer than it is, but maybe taller and higher than it is with some of the work you guys are doing. This is another In Focus production. I'll see you guys later on. Thanks for being here. Bye now.